Attorney Durso, if you'd like to cross-examine.
May 14th of 2022, you go to Lazy Brook Road for a party at Madigan Lifer's house, correct?
Yes.
That's you to the right there in the Ole Miss football shirt,
Yes.
the light blue shirt,
Yes.
black pants with the helmet on, right?
Yes.
That's you. You said that you got there around what time?
I want to say around 9 or 10.
9 or 10. You were there for, and you testified on direct examination, you were there for about an hour and a half, correct?
Yeah.
And people arrived at some point after an hour and a half, correct?
Yeah.
Ryan Hines and Griffin Marcinzik, you didn't know them, right?
No.
But those are the two that showed up at Lazy Brook Road at that point, right? Yeah. And when they got to Lazy Brook Road, Jack, Tyler, and yourself confronted those two, right?
When I first got there, no.
Because Madigan Lifer didn't want anybody else in her house. So you were under the assumption that if they left, you guys could stay, right?
No, she asked everybody by the door.
I'm gonna move to strike as non-responsive as to what Madigan Lifer said.
Court is going to sustain the objection. I am going to go ahead and strike everything after the response no as unresponsive and hearsay. Thank you.
So at some point in time, let me ask you this, how long was Ryan and Griffin at Lazy Brook before you, Jack, and Tyler got involved with them?
I want to say a couple of minutes.
A couple minutes, right? So they show up. Ryan walks down with his beer in his hand, right? And at some point you talk to Ryan and Griffin with Jack and Tyler, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you say to them, you can come in if you give me some beer, right?
I was the only one who said that.
You're the only one that said that.
Yes.
And Jack and Ryan gave you a beer, right?
He did not.
And at some point in time, it got heated between the three of you and Griffin and Ryan, right?
Just between Jack and Ryan.
And at some point in time, that went outside, right?
Yes.
So within the span of a few minutes, it went from give me a beer to going outside into the driveway, right?
Yes.
Okay. And out in the driveway, there was a group of people surrounding the area, right, from the party,
Scattered, yes.
right? And you said, I think you said on direct examination, there were about 30 people at this party. You remember saying that?
Inside, I think there was more.
Okay, so there was 30 people inside, and then there was maybe 20 outside?
No, there was probably like 10 people
There
outside.
was only 10 people outside. 10 people including you, or 10 people excluding you?
Including me.
Okay, and who was outside?
At the time, I didn't really like look at faces.
Right, you weren't paying attention, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of scan the area, and you say, oh, there's about 10 people here, right?
No, I didn't really look around to see how
You
many.
have no clue who was outside then at that point. That's what you're telling us?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't know if there were girls outside or boys outside at that point, right?
No.
You just know that there were bodies. You weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
And when you go outside, at some point there's an argument going on between Ryan and Jack, right?
Yeah.
And you're witnessing it.
Yeah.
And you're outside, in fact, with this helmet on at the time, are you not?
Yes.
And when you're outside and you're looking at this argument that is going on between Jack and Ryan, at some point in time they square up, right?
Yes.
And they square up because they're going to fight for the beer, right? Jack had taken the beer from him at that point,
Yeah.
right? And he wanted his beer back. Ryan wanted his beer back.
Yes.
And when they square up, Ryan's standing squared up to Jack. Jack's across from Ryan, right?
Yes.
And to Jack's back left is Tyler De Silva, correct?
Yes.
And behind Ryan is you, right?
Off to the side, yeah.
Right? And you're wearing that helmet at that point, right?
Yes.
And you testified on direct examination. They squared off. Hines stepped on my foot and I pushed him. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
You pushed him.
Yes.
I want to show you State's Exhibits 58. Stop right there. So this person right here to the left in the blue shirt. Who's that?
Tyler De Silva?
Can I get this? So this person right here is who?
Tyler De Silva.
And this person in the red is who?
Jack Snyder.
So right now you're behind. We can't see you, but you're right behind Ryan Hines, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Can you play it, please? Stop. Is that you pushing Ryan Hines in the head?
That's me pushing Ryan Hines, yes.
So that right there, that's a push, not a punch. That's what you're testifying. That's what you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe, that that was a push, not a punch.
Yes, I remember pushing him.
Can you play the fast version, please? Brooke, stop it there. Can you put the volume on? So right there, what you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe is that you just pushed Ryan in his head, not punched him. That's what you're telling them.
I'm saying that I remember pushing him.
But the video would contradict what you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe at this point, correct?
I remember pushing him.
But the video, that's not responsive to my question. The video does not corroborate what you just told these ladies and gentlemen of the jury, correct?
I just remember pushing him.
Non-responsive. Did you push him in the head or did you punch him in the head? You remember pushing him, but does the video show you pushing or punching him? That's my question.
I pushed him.
What does the video show?
Me pushing him?
So you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe that what just happened there is a push, not a punch, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also told these ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at some point during this fight, you go over and you try to get Ryan off of Jack, right? Because at that point the fight was on, and Ryan tackles Jack, right?
Yes.
And your testimony was that at some point, Tyler De Silva gets in and does the same thing, right?
Yes.
That's what you remember, right?
Yes.
But isn't it true that Tyler jumps in and also punches Ryan when he's on the ground?
I think so. I don't remember that happening.
Isn't it also true that at some point in time, towards the end of this fight, you use the helmet that's on your head and you slam it into Ryan's head?
That's not true, no.
That's not true? Is that not what you remember? Or is that what you're saying is that the video is false?
I never did that.
You never did that? Okay. So let's play the rest of this video and then we'll go to the slow-mo. That's you right there in the helmet back there, right? We'll wind it a tick. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. That's you right there, right?
Yes.
And you have a helmet on, right?
I had the helmet on a lot at the time.
Play it. Okay. Now we'll play the slow motion. Now you just saw the helmet slam down on Ryan, right? And you heard the crack of the helmet on Ryan's head?
I didn't slam the helmet down on him at all.
So you want these ladies and gentlemen to believe that you did not slam the helmet into Ryan's head when he was on the ground?
Yes.
Is that what you remember, or are you saying the video is false?
I don't really see that in the video.
Okay, let's play the slow-mo version. So here's the punch, or what you're saying is a push. There you are here with the helmet, right? Here's you right in here. Ready? Slam. That's you right there, slamming the helmet into Ryan's head, right?
I never slammed him with the helmet.
Okay, so the video's alive. That's what you're saying. So counsel asked you before if you ever had carried a weapon before May 14th of 2022. Isn't it true that you used the helmet as a weapon at Lazy Brook that night?
No.
At some point in time, Lifer's mother comes out and kicks everybody out, right? But that's about 15, 20 minutes after this fight is over.
Yeah.
And after that, after you guys are kicked out, you get into Jack's car, the Honda Pilot.
Yes.
And you had no idea what you were going to do, so you guys were driving over to Trumbull High School, right?
Yes.
And when you were driving over to Trumbull High School, isn't it true that during that ride, you were laughing and joking about how you just got into a fight and hurt Ryan Hines?
No.
You never said that?
Hmm.
And as you're going over to Trumbull High School, it's you in the back seat behind Jack, right?
Yeah.
Jack's driving.
Yes.
Tyler's in the front seat.
Yes.
In the middle seat is who? Will Sinjwald, correct?
Yes.
And to the right of him is Keenan Frasick.
Yes.
Mackenzie's on your lap.
Yes.
And Dimitri's in the back.
Yes.
And when you're driving over there, you indicated on direct examination you had your phone on you at that point, right? As a matter of fact, you had your phone all night, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you're added to a group chat, right?
Yes.
When you go over to Trumbull High School, had the group chat already started before you get to Trumbull High School?
I believe so, yes.
Right, so you knew that because you were already added, right?
I can't remember if I got added when we got to Trumbull or on the way there.
Isn't it true that Anthony Greco added you at 11:10 p.m. on Saturday, May 14th, 2022 to the group chat?
I can't remember, but yeah.
Well, who's Anthony Greco? You know Anthony Greco, right?
Football
Play
team.
football. You went to St. Joe's with you, right?
Yes.
He was at Lazy Brook that night at some point? Did you see him at Lazy Brook?
No, I don't remember seeing him.
But he added you to this chat nevertheless, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that was at about 11:10 p.m.?
I guess so, yeah.
And you indicated on direct examination, you were on your phone, checking the text group messages, you're talking to Will Sinjwald next to you, and you're talking to Mackenzie, right?
Yes.
And while you were doing all those things, you also had an opportunity to see that Jack was on his phone also, right?
Yes.
And you saw that Tyler was on his phone, right?
Yeah.
And when you get to Trumbull High School, how long are you there for? About 20 minutes?
I can't remember exactly how long we were there for.
When you get to Trumbull High School, you have a conversation with Jack and Tyler about fighting these kids at Trumbull High School, correct?
Oh, never.
Isn't it true that you were in the group chat telling kids to come show up to Trumbull High School to fight?
Yes. I remember telling them to come to Trumbull High
Right, because you, in this group chat, you're saying Trumbull High, slide. Right now, RN, right now, Trumbull High, slide, right?
Yes.
Because at that point, you wanted to meet those kids to fight, right?
No, we were about to be leaving Trumbull, and at the time I thought it would be funny.
So you wanted to meet those kids at Trumbull High School to fight, right?
No.
So at some point in time, you leave Trumbull High School,
Yes.
and before you leave Trumbull High School, you're again asking them, Trumbull High, slide, right? Slide means come here.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, you're in the group chat and you realize that the other kids are talking about an address, right? They said, we're going to drop the Addy, right? Does that mean address?
You're saying the other kids were saying that?
Yeah, people were
Yeah.
talking about giving you an address. Someone was saying, we'll drop the Addy, right? You remember hearing that, seeing that in the group chat?
No, I remember just seeing the address.
Okay. Do you recall when someone indicated that we dropped the Addy, you said send it in the group chat?
No, I don't remember that.
May approach the witness, Your Honor. But looking at the document help to refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
It's you, right? Is your memory refreshed?
It says my name, but I don't see the number.
Did somebody else have your phone that night?
I don't
Is somebody
remember.
else you know named Lito?
I don't remember now.
No. So do you recall asking for the address in the group chat that says send it?
No,
You don't recall that?
No.
Are you saying that this is not you in the group chat?
can't. It says my name, but there's no number.
Okay. Again, at some point in time later in the group chat, you say Laurel Glen, correct?
No.
You don't? May approach the witness. Would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection?
Sure. Yeah.
Lito, does that refresh your recollection?
Again, it says my name, but not my number.
So let me ask you this, Mr.
I didn't get a response. Did it refresh your recollection, yes or no?
No.
So let me ask you this. You recall being added to the group chat by Anthony Greco at 11:10 p.m. on May 14th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You recall that.
Yes.
And you also recall telling the kids to slide to Trumbull High School, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you recall whether or not your name was Lito in the group chat?
When you join a group chat, it's just your number.
It's just your number. But if somebody has your number, your name in their phone, it would say your name, correct?
Pretty sure it would still be just a number.
But would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection as to whether or not you told people to slide over to Trumbull?
No, I knew I said that.
You knew you said that, right? So if we had a group chat with your name on it, and that is corroborated in here that you told them to slide, wouldn't it also be true that if your name is in this group chat subsequent and you told them to drop the address, send it, that would also be you? Or is there two Litos that you know of?
I can't see the number. It just says my name.
Right. So wouldn't it stand to reason that Lito is you in the group chat?
I guess so. Yeah.
You just don't recall saying these things, right? That's your testimony today?
I only ever remember saying the Trumbull High thing.
Right. You don't recall asking them to send their address at Laurel Glen. That's what your testimony is, right?
Yeah.
And you don't recall reiterating the address that was sent, Laurel Glen. You say Laurel Glen, right? You actually say it twice in the group chat, but you don't recall that, right?
No.
That's your testimony today?
Yes.
And then at some point in time, you make your way from Trumbull High School over to 43 Laurel Glen, which is Tyler Rich's house, right?
Yes.
You didn't know it at the time, but that's Tyler Rich's house. You've met Tyler Rich before?
Yes.
Where have you met him before?
Parties.
What kind of parties?
High school parties.
Have you ever been to high school parties in the Berries? You know where the Berries are in Shelton?
No.
No, you don't? You ever recall going to a party on Mulberry, Strawberry, Edelberry, any type of street with a Berry last name in Shelton? You ever recall seeing Ricky Fiola at those parties?
Yeah, I've been to parties in Shelton.
Right. And you ever recall seeing Matt Lockovich at those parties?
Yes.
Yeah, you've met him before, right? As a matter of fact, you've had a fight with Matt Lockovich a week before this incident, correct? At one of those parties?
No, never.
So you drive over from Trumbull High School, and you indicate a couple cars were there when you got to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Can you repeat that?
When you drove over from Trumbull High School and you got to 43 Laurel Glen, you indicated on direct examination there were a couple of cars there, right?
Yeah.
We pulled up and saw girls from St. Joe's High School. Oh, I'm sorry, withdrawn. You indicated that when you got there, you saw other cars parked in the street, right?
Yes.
And there wasn't that many people outside at first, right? I noticed a few kids, right? Isn't that what you said on direct examination?
Yeah, not that I could see at first.
And at some point, people came out of the house, right?
Like everyone came out of the house.
Right. And people came out of the house because you texted them in the group chat, "We here," right?
No.
Do you recall doing that?
No.
Would looking at a document help to refresh your recollection?
Sure.
May approach the witness, Your Honor. Your memory refreshed?
Yeah, I never said that.
So somebody else had your phone at that point.
No, again, it says my name, but not my number.
So there's another person named Lito in the group chat.
Anybody can name anybody they want in the group chat.
But you would agree with me that in the group chat it says, from Lito, we hear, right?
It just says Lito.
And then it says, we hear, right?
Yes.
So at that point in time, people come out of the house, right?
Yes.
And when the people come out of the house, what time of night would you say it was when people came out of the house when you were in front of 43 Laurel Glen?
I can't remember.
You don't remember, but it was dark out.
Yeah.
It was late,
Yes.
clearly after 11, right?
Yes.
Probably sometime before 11:30-ish.
I don't know.
You don't recall?
No.
And you indicated that you saw people come out, and there were about 30 people that came out at that point, right?
That I could see, yeah, but I know there was more.
You knew there were more? How did you know there were more?
There was people behind those 30 people.
There was people behind the 30 people, so you counted each and every one of those people that came outside?
No, it's just an estimate.
It's just an estimate, right? So there could have been 20, right?
It looked like way more than 20 people.
Right, but it could have been 20, right?
Yeah.
So at some point in time, you indicate that Snyder stopped his car, you saw a yard and kids coming out to the car, right?
Yes.
And by the way, at some point in time, you leave the chat at like 11:32 p.m. Do you recall doing that?
Yes, that was before we arrived at the house.
Before you arrived at the house. So you left the chat, according to the chat, Lito left the conversation. You recall that happened?
Yes.
Okay. So you recall getting in the conversation, you recall getting out of the conversation, you only recall a few things that you said, but you think the other person named Lito in the conversation could be somebody else.
I remember why I left.
That mischaracterizes the testimony. He has not said he believes there's another person named Lito in the group chat.
So you recall saying some things in the chat, you just don't recall saying everything in the chat. Is that a fair statement of your testimony?
I only ever said the things about Trumbull High School.
Okay, so the other things that are in the chat, that would be inaccurate, according to you.
Yes.
Okay. So you were going over there to fight, correct?
No.
And when you got there, kids surrounded the car, right?
Yes.
And you indicated that on direct examination, there were rows of people, 10, then maybe 30, right?
Yes.
Jack was talking, Tyler was talking, because kids had approached the car at that point.
Yes.
You indicated kids you knew were there because you texted them in the group chat, right?
Never said that.
You said that on direct examination, right?
No. I said my window was up when all the kids came. When I recognized a few people, I put my window down.
And who did you recognize?
Ricky Fiola, Nikki DeJesus, and Aiden King.
So you spoke to Aiden King when he came next to the car at that point, right?
I spoke to all three of them.
Right, and you told Aiden King at some point when it got aggressive that tell your friends to get away from the car, I'm going to break a bottle over somebody's head.
No, I never said that.
And there were a few kids shouting at Jack at some point, right?
Yes.
And it became aggressive, according to you?
Yes.
But at first it was a peaceful conversation, right? According to you? Peaceful?
Mine was,
And it
yes.
got aggressive?
Yes.
But you didn't see anybody throw anything at that point, right?
No.
And then you indicated on direct examination you couldn't see anybody outside. So you only saw the three people you knew, Aiden, Ricky, and who was the third?
Nikki DeJesus.
So Nikki, Aiden, and Ricky you saw. That's it.
Yes.
You couldn't hear any threats, right?
I heard them screaming, but
But you couldn't hear any threats, right?
I couldn't make out what they were saying.
And at some point you indicated on direct examination people were hitting the car on all sides, right?
Yeah, before that happened, somebody punched Jack in the face.
I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive.
Sustained. Court's going to strike the witness's response after, yeah. Okay, so the rest of that response, please strike from your notebooks. If you took notes on it, it's not to be considered evidence. Okay.
So you indicated on direct examination people hitting the car on all sides, correct?
Yes.
And all I heard was banging, right?
Yes.
Didn't hear glass shattering, right?
No, I don't think so.
And the car began to rock, right?
Yes.
You indicated on direct examination you were panicking, right?
Yes.
This was never like anything you've been through before, right? This was scary, right?
Yes.
And at that point, you couldn't get out, right? You said that on direct,
There was no way to get out, no.
because there were so many people, right?
Yes.
And at some point, you thought to yourself, this is not a good idea, right, to be here?
I just remember being scared. My girlfriend was crying. And I remember telling Jack to drive.
To drive, right? So Jack drove down the street, right?
Yes.
And when Jack drove down the street, at some point, he stopped, right?
Yes.
At some point, was Jack driving up and down the street? You remember Jack driving up and down the street?
I don't remember that, no.
You don't remember that? Could have happened, but you don't remember?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
You don't remember. But at some point in time, he drives down the street, right? State Exhibit 1, you indicate that Jack drives down the street and at some point stops in front of the house near where we previously identified it as 36 Laurel Glen, correct?
Yes.
And it's at that moment that that Mackenzie gets out of the car
Yes.
and she's walking away,
Yes.
and then you get out of the car at some point, right?
Yes, right after.
While you're getting out of the car, you're pissed off, and you say, holy shit, they really fucked up your car, Jack. Give me the knife. Where's the knife? Give me the knife, right?
No. Immediately after I got out, or Mackenzie got out,
A move to strike is non-responsive. Everything after no.
Court is going to go ahead and strike the response after the witness indicated the word no. Please discard that from your notes. Thank you.
Now, you get out of the car with the knife, correct, at this point?
no.
Because according to you, on direct examination, Jack gave you the knife when you got out of the car at that point, correct?
Yes.
Right. So you did get out of the car with the knife at this point, right? When
I was
Jack-
out-
Objection, Your Honor, that mischaracterizes the testimony. He did not testify that he got out of with the knife.
So the witness indicated yes. I'm going to go back to the last question. I'm going to hear the last question again.
So Jack gave you the knife when you got out of the car, correct?
I was already outside of the car, yes.
And he gave you the knife at that point, right?
Yes.
And he gave you the knife when you got out of the car, at that point when the car initially stopped, right? Car stops, you get out, you get the knife, right?
Yes.
So you're in possession of the knife when you initially get out of the car on May 14th of 2022, right?
Objection, Your Honor. I think that mischaracterizes the testimony.
Yes, sustained.
When you get out of the car stops in front of 36 Laurel Glen. You get out of the car, right?
After Mackenzie, yes.
Mackenzie's walking down the street, right?
Yes.
And when you're out of the car, Jack gives you the knife, right?
Tosses it at me, yes.
Right. And then at some point after that, Tyler DeSilva gets out of the car and walks around the car towards you, right?
No, Tyler DeSilva was already next to me when that happened.
So it's your testimony that Tyler was next to you when Jack throws you the knife. That's your testimony.
As I remember it, yeah.
So I'm going to show you states 44 here. This is states 44. This person right here, standing right here with the dark pants and the shirt, is that you? Can you see where I'm pointing? Is that you, out of the car?
Yes.
So you're in front of the car, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, we see Tyler DeSilva get out of the car and walk next to you, right?
Yes.
So your testimony is, as Jack's driving up the street, he tosses you the knife at this point?
Yes. And you can see
I would.
at one point he stopped.
Everything after yes.
Pause for a yes or no answer. I'm going to strike everything after yes, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, so please make notation accordingly.
And by the way, when Jack gives you the knife, do you catch it? Does
No.
it fall?
It fell.
It fell? Okay.
Yes.
Play it.
That's when it falls.
There's no question.
Stop.
pending,
Stop.
I'm going to
So
start
I-
with the statement made by
Thank you.
plaintiff's counsel.
So we didn't see you bend down to pick anything up, correct?
I bent down to pick it up when I
You
was.
had to strike everything after, no.
Court is calling this tray. The witness's response after no.
So at this point in time, in States 44, you're in possession of the knife at this point, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, play it. Stop. Now, these are the kids from 43 Laurel Glen that just ran down towards you, right?
Yes.
When they came down the street, did they have any weapons on them?
I didn't look to see if they had any weapons.
But you didn't see any weapons, right?
I didn't look to see if they had any weapons.
They didn't have any weapons on them, right?
Didn't look to see if they had any weapons.
So you didn't see any weapons on them that night, right?
I didn't look. How would I?
So at this point in time, there's no fighting going on down there, right?
No.
And after this video stops, no fight occurs down this end of the street, right?
As they ran down, we said,
Yes or no answer. No fight happens after this video stops, right? No physical altercation happens down this end of the street, correct?
no.
Right. So you have the knife. You don't see anybody else with a weapon. Jack drives off. Mackenzie's down the other end of the street, right? She's at the corner of farmhouse in Laurel Glen.
Yes.
And Dimitri, Will, and Keenan are still in the car as the car drives away, right?
Yes.
So when Jack gave you the knife, they were in the vicinity of seeing that happen, correct?
They were in the car.
Right. Can you play the second one? So again, this is a different angle, right? Mackenzie's walking down the street, and this is you out here, just above this bush on the right side. And here comes Tyler walking to your right, right? So car drives away. You have the knife at this point, right?
Yes.
Tyler Rich runs up to you, right? Is that Tyler Rich that ran up the street, do you recall?
I saw like two kids run past.
Do you recall them throwing something at the car?
Yes.
Do you recall who that was?
No.
Stop. So at some point, do you recall who ran down the street?
Like in total?
No, I'm going to ask you first if you were familiar with anybody who ran down the street at that point.
Yes.
Ricky Fiola, right?
Yes.
Tyler Rich.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Ty Wood?
Yes.
Did he run down the street?
I can't remember seeing him.
Charlie Connery, are you familiar with him?
No.
You're not familiar with him. Do you know? So you don't know that the person that testified for the state as our last witness. You can't recall if he ran down the street.
No, I didn't see him.
But there were about 7 kids that ran down the street, right?
I don't know exactly how many.
Or was there more than 7 or less than 7?
I'm not sure.
You would agree with me there was more than 3 kids, right? Clearly in the video there's more than 3 kids from the Shelton party,
Yes.
right? And would you also agree with me that after this particular part of the video ends, there's a whole interaction that happens down the end of the street that's not captured on video, right?
Yes.
And that interaction that's happening is you having the knife, right?
Yeah, it's in my pocket.
You have this interaction with Tyler Rich, right?
Yes, he sprays
And-
me with
And he sprays you with the WD-40, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, shortly after that happens, Ricky Fiola comes and talks to you, right?
Like right after, yes.
Right. Because in your words, you indicated that he came up to me, talked to me, made me feel better about the situation, right? because you had just gotten sprayed, right?
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, between the time you were in the car when you got to 43 Laurel Glen, up until the time where you spoke to Ricky Fiola, the people at that party indicated to you they didn't want you at the house. You were supposed to leave, right?
I guess so, yeah.
So when you spoke to Ricky, not what he said, but during your conversation, pretty much said you should not be here, you should leave, right?
No.
So he actually said you should stay?
He was talking bad about Tyler Rich.
Right. And then he said you guys should probably just leave, right?
No, he never said that.
He never said that. He said probably you should just hang out in the corner and, figure it out, right?
I can tell you what he said.
Well, I don't want to know what he said, but the reality is, the conversation you had with Ricky Fiola was, hey, I was really messed up that he sprayed you with WD-40, but look, there's a lot of us and there's only a few of you guys, this is not smart, you probably should just leave. Are you saying that that conversation didn't happen?
That's not what he said.
Okay. So, but nevertheless, these 3, 4, or 5 kids that run down the street, including Tyler Rich, they do not engage you in a physical altercation down the street, correct?
Just sprayed me with WD-40.
And walked away then, right?
Yeah.
He walked back to his house, right?
Yes.
And when he walked back to his house, you guys stayed down the street for a little bit, right?
Yes.
And so your testimony today is you were never told to leave the area?
I've never heard anybody say that. Ricky Fiola 100% didn't say that.
And at that point, you said on direct examination, you were scared and confused, right?
Yes.
Terrified about the group of people that were down the road, right?
Just everything.
And you were scared even when the people walked down the street, right? When they came down the street towards Farmhouse Road, that scared you?
When they were running at us, yes.
You were panicked?
Yeah.
You were concerned?
Yes.
You had your phone on you at that point, right?
Most likely, yes.
Most likely, right. So, at any point between the time you got out of the car and the time the kids ran down the street, you never called for somebody to give you a ride home, right?
No, Mackenzie's sister was going to give me a ride.
And you never called for an Uber, right? To bring you out of that situation, right?
Mackenzie's sister was going to give me a ride home.
And you never called for a lift, right? Because Mackenzie's sister was coming to pick you up?
Yes.
So Mackenzie's sister was going to pick you up at the corner of Farmhouse Road and Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
You knew that because you had a conversation with Mackenzie about getting a ride home.
Yes.
Because on direct examination, you indicated that you walked over to Mackenzie and said, hey, listen, can I get a ride home? I don't want to be here anymore, right?
I don't remember my exact words, but I remember asking her for a ride.
Because you were concerned.
Yes.
You wanted to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Mackenzie had her head down, right?
Yes.
She was on her phone. Safe to say she wasn't paying attention to things going on around her?
Yes.
Isn't it true Mackenzie was mad at you at that point because she didn't want to go to Tyler Rich's house and you didn't stick up for her?
No, she initially started crying and got upset when they were hitting the car.
And by the way, the state called 25 witnesses in this case, right?
Yes.
And you were here for all 25 of those witnesses, right?
Yes.
And the story you're telling us today is the first time we've heard this story, right?
I was never asked by anybody to tell my
I'm
side of the
gonna
story.
move to strike as non-responsive.
So the court's going to go ahead and strike the witness's response to the question as being non-responsive. Call for a yes or no.
So this is the first time we're hearing this story, correct?
Yes.
And Mackenzie knew a lot of those kids at that house, right? You knew that.
Yes.
And she didn't want to be there, right?
After they started hitting the car, she started crying.
Right. And at some point in time after this video ends, Will gets out of the car, right?
Yes.
And Keenan gets out of the car, right?
Yes.
And Dimitri gets out of the car, right?
Yes.
And at some point in time, they sit down at the corner because they're waiting for a ride, right?
I remember them sitting around Mackenzie at one point.
But you were not under the impression that they were also waiting for Mackenzie's sister?
The only person I knew that was waiting for a ride, like, definitely was Will Singewell because he was calling his girlfriend.
Because his girlfriend, Carolyn Takis, was coming to get him, right?
Yes.
Right. So as far as you were concerned, Carolyn was coming to get Will, and Dimitri and Keenan had no ride home at that point? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
But nevertheless, Will, Keenan, Dimitri, and Mackenzie don't get back in the car with Jack at some point, right?
Can you say that again?
At some point in time, Jack, you, and De Silva get in the car and go back down to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
Right. But when that happens, Will doesn't get in the car, right?
Nobody else gets in the car.
Right. Mackenzie doesn't get in the car, right?
Nobody else got.
Dimitri doesn't get in the car, right? And neither does Keenan, right? Because they didn't want to get involved with what was going to happen, right?
Because they were asked not to.
I'm going to move to strike as non-responsive. Ask that he answer in the yes or no.
We're going to go ahead and strike witness's last response. The question called for a yes or no answer. Please remove it from the room.
So they didn't get in the car because they didn't want to be involved with what was going to happen, correct?
No.
And at some point in time, you indicate that you say Tyler's your best friend, right? Growing up, you met him since 8 years old.
Yes.
And Jack was only just an acquaintance from St. Joe's, right? You weren't really friends with him,
Not as close as Tyler.
right? But you all hung out, right?
Yes.
And you all would go to parties together on the weekends, right?
Yes.
You guys were football buddies, right?
Yeah, we all played football. Yeah.
In fact, it wasn't uncommon for Jack to pick you and Tyler up and go to a party, right?
He was always the one that drove.
He was always the one that drove, right? And when you guys are in school, you guys would always hang out and talk, right?
At football practice, not really.
At football. So you didn't associate with Jack in school, just in football practice? Is that
We
what?
never had any of the same classes.
Okay. So you never saw him in the hallway and said, "Hey, Jack, what's up?" So you associated with him, right? And but Jack was always the one that drove you guys. It wasn't Tyler, right?
Not always, but if we were going out with Jack, he was driving.
But you went out with them a lot, is the point, right? Whenever you would go out, it would be you, Tyler, and Jack, right?
No.
No? Even though Jack always drove, majority of the time?
Jack always drove when we went out with him.
Okay, but you didn't go out with him a lot? That's what you're saying now? Okay. So at some point in time, there's a conversation, you say on direct examination, there's a conversation between Jack and Tyler in this area, right? You don't know what the conversation's about?
It was something.
I don't want to know what it was about. Do you know what it was about, or yes or no?
Somewhat, yes.
You know somewhat what it was about. So, and based on that information, you were still scared,
Yes.
and you were still concerned, and you were still worried about what could happen.
Yes.
And at some point in time, Jack gets in the car,
Yes.
Tyler gets in the car,
Yes.
and you get in the car,
Yes.
and you're still concerned,
Yes.
right? And you go back down to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
Because you're still concerned, right?
My best friend was going. I was going with.
Non-responsive. I would ask them, that's to be stricken.
It's going to strike the witness's response as non-responsive. Called for a yes or no. Thank you.
So, at some point in time, you get in the car with Jack and Tyler, correct?
Yes.
And you are going to go back to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
And you're going to go and talk to some kids that had just damaged the car, right?
Yes.
Threw stuff at the car, right?
Yes.
Bounced on the car, right?
Yes.
Almost withdrawn. Did these things for about a 30 to 40 second period, right? When you were initially in front of 43 Laurel Glen?
I don't know how long it was.
Was it fast? Was it fast interaction or was it slow interaction?
I can't remember.
But nevertheless, these are the kids that damaged the car, right?
Yes.
And you were going back to talk to them, right?
Yes.
These are the same kids, right, that you said you were very concerned about,
Yes.
you were very worried about,
Yes.
you were panicking when this was going on, right?
Yes.
But you went back to 43 Laurel Glen, right?
Yes.
You could have stayed at the corner of Farmhouse Road and Laurel Glen and waited for Mackenzie's sister to pick you up, right?
back, that's what we should have done.
Move to strike as non-responsive.
We'll go ahead and strike the witness's response as non-responsive. Question called for a yes or no answer.
You could have stayed at the corner of Laurel, Glen, and Farmhouse Road, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't do that, did you?
No.
And you got back in that car with the knife,
Yes.
and you indicated on direct examination you were scared to get back in the car, right?
Yes.
But you did it anyway.
Yes.
And you didn't have to go back to that house, did you? So you get back to the house, right? And you get out of the car, right?
Yes.
It's 52. I may approach the witness, Your Honor. And Jack drives the car and stops the car right about here on States 52 in front of his mailbox, right? Right in the middle of the road? Right, there's a car parked here, right? He stops right about here, right?
No, it was really close.
How close to the car? Did you open the door? Or was it too
I
close?
wasn't on that side.
Right, but you were on that side at one point that night, weren't you?
Yes.
So you could open the door, right?
Yes.
Right. So the car was closer to the center of the road, right?
Yes.
And Tyler gets out of the front passenger seat, right? He walks around the car and onto the grass, right?
Yes.
You saw this, right?
Yes.
You got out of the rear passenger seat on Jack's side, right?
Yes.
And you walk around the car, and you never lost sight of Tyler, correct?
Yes.
So you look at him over the SUV, right? That's what your testimony is?
No, I went around.
You went around the SUV, but you just said that you didn't lose sight of him. So you looked over the SUV to see where Tyler was, right? So my point is, you didn't see him in the marathon, right? You just walked around the car, then you made contact with Tyler again, right?
Yes.
Right. And Tyler was on the left. Tyler was in this area at some point on the left, right? You were on the right.
I met him on the grass.
You met him here?
No, I was in front of him. Like
Oh.
right with the curve.
Right here.
Here. One to the left. Okay.
So you were on the left. I mean, Tyler was on the left, you were on the right, right?
Yes.
You walked up together, right?
Yes.
And when you initially got there were like 10 people in the yard, right?
I can't remember exactly how many. We were first approached by Lily Lombardi.
You indicated on direct examination there were people in the yard, right?
Yes.
You said 10 people at first in the back, correct?
Around there?
They were far back, right?
Yeah.
Close to where that little hole is in the, where they came out of?
It was really dark.
It was really dark, you couldn't see,
Yeah.
right? And you didn't recognize anybody at that point, right?
They were too far away.
And you had the knife in your pocket when you got out, right?
Yes.
When people started coming out of the house, were there girls that came out of the house also?
The first person we spoke to was a girl. Before all those people came.
Was there more than one girl at the house? Do you recall?
I don't remember.
Well, Lily Lombardi, right? Taylor Capella was there.
I didn't see her.
Do you know Taylor Capella?
No.
Are you saying there was only one girl at the party that night?
I'm saying I only saw her and spoke to one girl.
You only spoke to one girl, but you don't know if there were other girls later on in the evening that were outside watching, right? There could have been. You just don't know. And you said at some point 30 kids come out, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
We were approached by Rich and everybody else. There were 30 people, right?
No, at first it was around 30 people, and then everybody came out.
And how many of those people were girls?
I didn't see any girls.
You didn't see any girls? So there could have been girls in the back, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And when they came out, you recognized only Tyler Rich, right?
Yeah.
And you had your conversation with Tyler Rich.
I have a conversation with Tyler.
So you just stood there?
Yeah.
And Ryan Hines approached you?
Yeah.
And you had a conversation with Ryan Hines?
Yes.
And that was the kid that you had pushed in the head, according to your testimony, earlier that night at Lazy Brook, correct?
Yes.
And you were next to Tyler when this was happening?
Yes.
And you indicated on direct examination there were a wall of people at some point in front of you, right?
Yes.
Right? And initially, it was, De Silva was talking to about 10 people. You said that on direct, remember that?
Like there was, all of them were all together, but he was directly
So
talking.
it was like a line of people. It was you, this is Tyler, this is you, and there's a line of people in front of you, right? And there's about 10 people? Giant group of people. And when you're talking to these people, you're asking where Aiden King is, right?
I asked Ryan Hines, I was like, where's Aiden King? That's my boy.
That's your what?
My boy, like my friend.
That's your friend?
Yeah.
You heard Aiden King testify in this case, right?
Yes.
You heard him testify that you said, tell the people get away from the car, I'm going to smash a bottle on somebody's head, right?
Yeah, he said that.
And you indicated on direct examination that you were speaking with 4 to 5 people, right?
Yeah.
You were speaking with Ryan Hines,
Yeah.
Ty Wood. You remember Ty Wood? Do you know who Ty Wood is? You know who Ty Wood is? You don't recall seeing him there that night?
I was mainly talking with Ryan Hines.
And Faison Teal was close by at this point?
I believe so, yes.
And so at some point, were there other people that you recognized there at the time besides Ty Wood, Ryan Hines, and Tyler Rich?
There was a giant group of people. There were so many faces.
But you don't know everybody that was there.
No.
And the knife was in your pocket at this point.
Yes.
And the people you were talking with didn't have any weapons on them, right?
Not that I saw, no.
Right. And you were getting nervous.
Yes.
And you recall at some point, so at the end of your testimony yesterday on direct examination, you indicated that there were 4 to 5 people that you were speaking with, but then today when you started testifying, you indicated there was 20 to 25 people just on you. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So was it 4 to 5 people or 20 to 25 people?
They were all together. It's not like it was only 4 who came up and talked to us, or they were all together.
And when you're walking up to Tyler Rich's house, they're telling you to leave the property, right?
No.
And when you're walking up to Tyler Rich's house, you see the kids start coming out of the house, right?
Yes.
And at that point, you could have turned around and went back to the car, right?
Yes.
But you didn't do that, right? And at some point, you indicated there were people everywhere, right? And people were saying stuff, right? It was aggressive. People were arguing. You were arguing back. Tyler was arguing back. And you indicated you were smaller at the time, right? Much smaller than you are today?
Yes.
Right. But you felt like you were okay at that point because you had a knife on you, right?
No.
So you approached kids that had just thrown stuff at the car, right?
Yes.
That had dented the car, right?
Yes.
That had jumped and bounced and rocked the car, right?
Yes.
And you were panicked because of it, and you were worried, and you approached these kids at that point at Tyler's house with a knife in your pocket, correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you make a move towards Ty Wood, correct? You flinch like you're going to hit somebody, right? And when that happens, you get punched by Tyler Rich, right?
I stuck my hand up for somebody to shake hands.
I would move to strike as non-responsive.
Court's going to strike the portion of the witness's response after no. Okay, so anything after no to the question, please strike from your notes. That's not to be considered evidence.
And at some point you get hit in the head, right? On the left side of your head, right? And you don't know who punched you, do you? You know now who punched you, right? But at the time, you did not know who punched you, right? Isn't it true that you thought you got hit in the head with a bottle at that point?
Yeah.
But it wasn't a bottle, right?
I don't know.
Right. And you indicated on direct examination at that point everything went black. How long would you say it went black for?
It's impossible to tell. I have no idea.
You have no idea how so maybe it was like 2 seconds
Or longer.
or longer? How long?
Way to tell.
How long?
There's no way to tell.
No way to tell. And your face was in the ground. And all you saw were people hitting and kicking you, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't see any weapons, right?
No, I just saw the ground.
Right. And the knife was in your pocket.
Yeah.
And at some point, people were yelling, right?
They were yelling. Yeah.
And people were, you couldn't see, but people were all around you. That was your testimony on direct, right? People were all around you, but you couldn't see. So how were you able to see if people were all around you if your head was in the ground?
Before they hit me, they started like circling me.
But when you were in the ground and you were in the fetal position, you couldn't see who was around you, right?
No, I just felt
You couldn't tell if there was one person engaging you, right?
it was way more than one.
Could you tell if it was one person that was engaging you at that point?
It was way more than
Do
one.
you have eyes in the back of your head?
I can feel.
Do you have eyes in the back of your head?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
Mr. Valle, you indicated on direct examination that your head was in the ground, right?
Yes.
And you were down on the ground looking at the ground, right?
Yes.
And when your head is down on the ground, could you tell if there were two people engaging you?
I could tell there was way more than two.
Could you tell if there was one person engaging you?
I could tell there was way more than one.
Could you tell if there were three people?
I could tell there was way more than.
Could you tell if there were four people?
I could tell there was way more.
How many people did you see? How many people did you see engage you when you were on the ground looking at the ground?
I just felt stuff coming from everywhere.
So you couldn't tell how many, correct?
Yes.
And you still had the knife on you at that point.
Yes.
And you indicated on direct examination that you lost consciousness. How long would you say you lost consciousness for?
There's no way to tell. I
There's
don't.
no way to tell. So you blacked out, right?
Yeah,
And you lost consciousness, right?
that was at the same time.
That was at the same time. But you don't know how long it was. Would you agree with me that the fight on the video doesn't capture the entire fight, right?
Nah, not anywhere close to it.
The video is about 17 seconds long, right? And the fight in its entirety is probably about 25 to 30 seconds long, right?
No,
No? It's longer than that? What's it, like 5 minutes?
no.
How long would you say it was?
It's impossible to tell, especially when you're like in this situation.
45 seconds?
I felt.
It felt like an eternity, though, right? But it was about 45 seconds.
I don't know how long.
You don't know how long it was. But you lost consciousness at some point during that whole altercation, right? And you don't know how long you lost consciousness for. And at some point when you regained consciousness, you took the knife out of your pocket, right?
Yeah.
Now, when the knife was in your pocket, it was closed, right? So you had to take the knife out of your pocket, right? Your right pocket. You had to open the knife, right?
My other hand was covering my head.
Showing you States 95. Picture of is a replica of the knife that you had that night, correct?
I never looked at it.
You never looked at it? But it was a knife that opened in this manner, correct? You had to open the knife?
I don't even remember opening it.
You don't remember opening it. Well, was the knife opened in your right pocket when it was in your pocket?
I don't think so. No.
No. So if this was the knife, or if this is a copy of what the knife looked like, it would have been closed in your pocket, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So when you're on the ground, you stick your right hand in your pocket, you take the knife out of your pocket, correct? And then you proceed to open the knife, right?
No, I don't remember. My other hand, I remember, was the whole time holding my head.
So you opened that knife with one hand?
Yes.
You recall doing that?
No, I don't remember opening the knife.
And when you take the knife out, you have it in your hand, your right hand, right?
Yes.
And you have it in your hand like this, in your fist.
Yes.
And the blade is up this way,
Yes.
right? And you say on direct examination you were flailing your arms. Do you remember saying that? And you indicated that you were swinging the knife, right?
Yeah.
Show you states 56. This is Ryan Hines. You remember Ryan Hines from that night?
Yeah.
This is the kid that you say you pushed at Lazy Brook and then did not slam in the head with your helmet. Remember that?
Yes.
He's got a lot of facial injuries. Would you agree?
No.
No? States 83. Would you agree, Mr. Valle, that Mr. Hines has contusions on his head, correct?
I see the one on the top of his head.
You don't see the ones on the side of his head? You don't see that his nose is broken here?
That, on the side, it just looks like acne.
States 84. You see the contusion on his head?
Yes.
That wasn't caused by your helmet? Did you do that at 43 Laurel Glen?
No.
So somebody else must have done that.
Yeah, I guess.
You have the knife in your hand, and you have it in the fist, right? States 87. And you stab Ryan Hines in his chest and puncture his lung, correct?
Yes.
Like this, right?
Wasn't aiming or anything.
And you stab him in the side. States 89, right? That's not a swipe, would you agree? That's a stab wound, right?
I was flailing my arm around.
That was a stab wound, right?
I was flailing my arm around.
So you're indicating that this is a swipe?
Objection, Your Honor. I think that mischaracterizes the testimony.
Sustained.
States 91. You were flailing your arms. He stabbed it again in the left side, correct?
Yeah.
So he stabbed 3 times, right?
Yes.
States 54, Faison Teal. You remember seeing him there that night, right?
I think so.
And you stabbed him, State 70, once in the upper extremity, in his left arm, right?
Yes.
While you were flailing your arms.
Yes.
And that's about an inch or so, right? And at some point, they let you go, right?
Oh.
And when they let you go, at that point, Tommy Connery comes over, right? Because Ryan Hines is now out of it because you just stabbed him 3 times, right?
They never let go of
And
anybody.
Tommy Connery comes over. Remember Tommy Connery? States 55? That's Tommy Connery, right?
Yeah.
And you're down on the ground, right? You're bent over, right? No, you're not bent over.
I was on the ground.
You're on the ground. And you go after Tommy Connery, States 77, and you stab him 4 times in his leg, correct?
I didn't go after anybody.
And at some point in time, you're chased out into the street, right?
Yeah.
And you fall down. You said, according to your direct testimony, is you fall and you skin your hands on the ground.
That was after.
That was after. That was the second time, not the first time. But at some point in time, you go out into the street, right? And we see that in the video, correct?
Yeah, I got thrown like towards the car.
Right. And you run back to the car, right?
Yes.
Then you run back to the car, and you go to get in the car, right?
I
No one chased you to the car, correct?
Yes, I did.
They did. Okay, let's play. Let's play the lightning bird. Play the slow.
Is this Exhibit 60?
This is Exhibit 60. I need Stop it. Who's this person right here running back to the car? Who's chasing them?
If you back it up a little bit, you see all those people, right?
No, they stopped. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up. Right here, right? These kids right here?
Yeah.
They're chasing you? They stopped. Right?
I didn't look backwards.
But they stopped, right? The video shows that they're stopped here at this point, right? They're not chasing you up to the car, right?
The camera turns.
Play it again. Just keep playing. That's you, right?
Yes.
And you're at the car by yourself? Stop it. Do you see any kids coming now from your left side if they're chasing you?
I didn't look that way.
But in the video, they're not chasing you, right?
I didn't look that way.
My question to you is, in the video, they're not chasing you to the car, right?
No?
No. They play it. Stop. Now, at this point, the kids are retreating back onto the property, right?
I was just looking for Tyler.
So the answer to my question is you didn't see where the kids were retreating back to then, right?
I just looked for Tyler.
But they didn't come after you at the car, right?
I just looked for Tyler. I don't know.
I would move to strike as non-responsive.
Mortal strike the witness's last response.
You indicated on direct examination that you were thrown into the car. You remember testifying to that?
Yeah, I was pushed towards the car.
But the video doesn't show you being thrown into the car, does it?
I guess not.
Now, at some point in time, you say you saw Tyler back on the lawn, right?
Yeah.
You still had the knife on you at that point, right? The knife was still out in your hand, right? And you come back into the fight, right?
Yeah.
Now, Tyler's being pushed into the street at this point, right?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that there are no Shelton kids to the right of you, right? There's a car. We can see a car right there, right?
And there's kids like right
There's kids in front of you,
to the right. Yes.
but there's no kids right to the right of you. There's a car. We can see the car. If there were, we wouldn't be able to see the car, right?
That's the street.
Right. There's nobody to the right of you, right? There's a kid in front of you.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of kids right
Right. There's a whole bunch of kids over here we can't see, but there's nobody to the right of you, right?
there. There's a kid right next to him.
There's a kid here. But I'm saying, is this you right here?
Yes.
Right. To the right of you, do you see a kid or a car?
That's the street.
That's the street, and there's a car there, right?
Yeah.
So there's nobody to the right of you, right? There's a car.
There's nobody in the street.
And there's nobody to the left of you other than Tyler De Silva, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going back in, there's just a wall like this, right?
It's like this.
Right. But you're not surrounded at that point, right?
At that point, no.
No. But you go back in, and Tyler's already pushed out into the street, right?
The video. I'm on my way back as he's.
But Tyler is no longer engaged in the fight, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that. So you just blacked out and ran right back into the fold. That's your testimony today?
Being on the yard, and it was just like a shoe horse of people.
A shoe horse, but not a circle. You were not encircled, right?
Like, was there anybody behind me?
Right. There's nobody behind you.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Right. So you could have, if you chose to, which you did not, you could have left. You could have retreated, right?
No.
So you could not have left because there were people around you?
Yes.
So you just said that there was a semicircle of people on the yard. Now you're saying that you were surrounded.
It was like this.
So semicircle, right?
Yeah.
Not a circle. A circle goes like this, right?
Yeah, I wasn't going to turn my back to that many people.
You weren't going to. I'd move to strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow the Boston to stand.
You indicated when you made it back to the car, you were still terrified, right?
Yeah.
You were still scared. You came back in anyway, right? With the knife. Right? And you ran over to the edge of the grass, right? And you passed Tyler, right?
Yes.
He passed you on your left, correct?
Yes.
You indicated that you saw Matt Lakovich,
Yes.
but you also indicated on direct you couldn't see who hit you. You said you were hit.
Yes.
You remember saying that? You couldn't see who hit you,
I remember getting hit.
but you don't know who hit you.
I don't think so, no.
Do you recall subsequent during your direct examination, you said Matt Lakovich hit me?
I said it could have been him.
Could have been, but you don't know who hit you. And when you were running back into the fight, you had the knife out, right?
Yes.
And people that were in front of you were defending themselves from you, weren't they?
No, they kept coming in.
They kept coming at you while you had a knife out, approaching them.
I was standing still right there.
You heard Charlie Connery yell, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife," right?
I just heard screaming. I couldn't.
At the time, you don't recall hearing that during the incident, right? But on the video, you hear him yell, "He's got a knife, he's got a knife," right? And you're saying that people engaged you while you had a knife at this point in time?
Nobody backed up.
Nobody backed up, but nobody attacked you.
They were stepping forward, and somebody ended up hitting me.
And you couldn't see who hit you.
No.
And you couldn't see if anybody had a weapon on them at that point, right? And at some point, you indicate that you turned around, well, withdrawn. At some point in time, you turned, right, to run back to the car, right?
Yeah.
But when you're turning to run back to the car, you see Jimmy McGrath and you stab him in the chest, correct?
No. I would never do
Have you
that.
seen the autopsy photos, sir?
Yes.
Did you see where his injuries happened?
Yes.
In his upper left chest?
Yes.
Are you saying you did not stab Jimmy McGrath in the heart?
I didn't land.
Move to strike is non-responsive.
Or to strike everything after. I'm not sure we got a response, so I will strike the response.
Isn't it true? You just testified that I didn't want to turn my back on these people, right?
Yes.
But you turned your back on these people when you were trying to get out of there, right?
I was facing backwards.
So you were facing backwards. So you're facing the group, and are you backing up like this?
No, I was standing there.
Right.
and
You're not backing up, right?
I got hit.
Right. You're not backing up. And as a matter of fact, this is Jimmy McGrath on the left here, right?
Yes.
And he doesn't have a weapon on him, does he?
Not
And
that
he's not engaging you, is he?
I'm stepping forward.
He's stepping forward,
They all stepped forward.
but he doesn't have a weapon on him, does he?
Not that I saw, no.
And it would be unfair for somebody who doesn't have a weapon to be stabbed by somebody who does, right?
I didn't try to stab anybody.
But you stabbed him, didn't you?
Yes.
You turned around and stabbed Jimmy McGrath in his chest.
No.
So you didn't stab him,
didn't see it happen. I didn't feel me stab. I didn't go up to him and stab him.
Are you saying it was somebody else that stabbed Jimmy McGrath?
I was the only one with a knife.
Correct. You were the only one with the knife. And you turned around and you stabbed Jimmy McGrath in the chest, and then you left, right?
Oh,
Counsel. It's 4 minutes to 1.
Stop here.